Have you heard of Galileo's leaning tower of Pisa experiment? Galileo was an Italian scientist who dramatized that the masses of objects do not have any impact on the time they would take to fall to the ground. Before the time of this scientist, many persons believed the theory of Aristotle that masses of objects will fall to the ground at speed proportional to their masses. This man took some of his colleagues to the leaning tower of Pisa and dramatized to them with two objects of different masses. These two objects got to the ground the same time, showing that insofar the same force of gravity is acting on them, irrespective of their masses, they will fall to the ground the same time. That is a classical example of what principles are. Principles are general truths, laws that apply in different situations. When you try them, they will work for you, irrespective of your color, your age, your height, your political affiliation, irrespective of your ethnic group or your religion. Principles are fundamental truths. They are laws that are there in nature that work for you. Today, I want to share with you Joseph's principles. Yes, Joseph, that favorite grass to grace story. I don't know if that's your grass to grace story, but that is mine. If it is not yours, you can share yours with me. But we are talking about Joseph, the principles from the life of Joseph. Principles that when you apply, will catapult you to success and lead you to a life of wealth, to a life of prosperity. That is what I want to share with you today. What are these principles? When you look at your Bible, from the book of Genesis chapter 39, you see 39, 40, and 41. These principles I want to share with you, they are there, and I will make it easy for you. So the first principle is stick with God and rise with the favor of God. You see, these days, there is always the temptation to look for alternative means to success. People want to make money the quick way. The devil tries to sell the idea that if you want to stick with God, if you want to do this God's way, you will remain poor. But I can tell you, that's a big lie. Look at Joseph. Even when he was in the pits, he stuck with God. When he was sold into slavery, he stuck with God. When he was bought as a slave in Egypt, he stuck with God. When he was promoted in Potiphar's house, he stuck with God. When he was tempted by Potiphar's wife, he stuck with God. When he was thrown into the prison, he stuck with God. Eventually, the favor of God elevated him. He stuck with God. Learn to stick with God. Joseph told Potiphar's wife when he was tempted, when the devil was dangling an offer for him to get prosperity through the short route, he told Potiphar's wife, I cannot do this great evil against my God. Because Joseph stuck with God. Why this is very important is the favor of God is better than labor. The favor of God in your life is your greatest advantage. So if everything is stacked against you, if everything is standing against you, if you are not from a rich background, if you do not have the right education, if you don't have the right connection, your best way to attain success is to stick with God. For the favor of God is better than life. David said in Psalm 34, I was young, now I am old. I have never seen the righteous forsaken, nor his descendant beg bread. I tell you, if you don't have all the advantages and privileges other people have, your sure bet to prosperity, to greatness, is to stick with God. For God does not forsake his own. And when God favors you, even the basket will not leak water. Things that look like disadvantage will begin to work for your advantage. The Bible said, and Joseph found favor in the eyes of God. I wish I can tell you that when you stick with God, the path will be smooth all through. I'll be lying to you. It won't be. But there is something I can tell you. If you stick with God, He will never disappoint you. The road may be rough, but God will always give you a soft landing. In the end, what you are going to get will be a fulfillment of what the Holy Spirit revealed through Paul, that eyes have not seen, ears have not heard, nor has it entered into the hearts of men what God has for them who love Him. Do you love God? will you stick with God? It is your advantage even if you don't have anything. That is the first principle. The second principle we can see from the life of Joseph is skill and empathy will lead you to success. Joseph's skillfulness in the interpretations of dreams gave him an edge of value to be able to interpret dreams for Pharaoh's officials that were brought to the prison where he was. He had that skill. That became his point of value, his point of influence over these VIP officials. But do you know what opened the door for him? It was his empathy. The Bible says one day Joseph saw the countenance of Pharaoh's butler and baker, and he felt that this is not the normal countenance of these people. He went close to ask them, "Folks, what's the problem?" They said, "We had a dream and we don't know the interpretation." Joseph said, "Don't worry. Tell me, let me tell you the meaning." And Joseph was able to interpret the dreams of these two officials. What are you skillful at? Do you have empathy? Yes, some persons are looking for success. Some are looking for prosperity, but you are not skillful at anything. That's not a principle of the Bible. That's not a principle from the life of Joseph. You must apply yourself to something you can use to create value for someone, that someone will be willing to pay you for. Joseph was skillful in the interpretations of dreams, and he used that. That was what gave him a connection. What are you skillful at? You need to think about this deeply. The second thing, beyond your skill, some persons have the skill, but they don't have the attitude. They don't have the empathy. You must understand that you want to serve people. You want to offer value to people. You must be willing to listen to them, to observe them, to feel their pains, so that when you are offering value, you are meeting the needs of people, and that is how they can pay you. That is how you can walk your way to prosperity. Be skillful and be empathetic. That is something we saw from the life of Joseph. Here's the third principle. Place premium on competence. Joseph was close to God. He had a relationship with God. He had a skill, but beyond that, Joseph placed premium on competence. When he was in Potiphar's house, he was competent in the administering of Potiphar's assets. That Potiphar knew nothing but prosperity, that he left everything for Joseph, except the food he eats. He was competent. But do you know where you see competence again? When Joseph had an opportunity to stand before Pharaoh, to interpret Pharaoh's dream. After the interpretation, Joseph said, "Look for a competent person to marshal this plan." Joseph did not say, "Look for your trusted guy." No. Joseph did not say, "Look for your tribe's person." No. Joseph did not say, "Look for a person in your church." No. He said, "Look for a competent man." Only competence understands the impact of competence. So if you want to grow, if you want to accelerate to that future of your dream, you must place premium on competence. People should be able to say that if you give Eric this, it will prosper. People should be able to say, if you leave the economy in the hands of this man, you are sure that we experience a boom. That is competence. And when Joseph came up with a plan, he placed high premium on competence, because that has been the way of Joseph. So I speak to you, place premium on competence in whatever you do. Don't just say, "I know how to make hair." How well can you make the hair of someone? Be competent. The Bible says a man that is diligent in his work will stand before kings and not ordinary men. Joseph became a live example of scriptures. He stood before Pharaoh because of his competence, and his competence was able to save Egypt from a period of famine, from a period of lack. High premium on competence. That's the third principle. Here's the fourth principle. Learn to network with your work, because eventually your network will determine your net worth. Yes, I see many persons place emphasis on networking. Try to network. What are you networking with? It is not just going to conferences and shaking hands and taking numbers. Network with your work, your skill. As you are offering your services to people, offer quality services. Let them know the other things you can do. Then take their numbers. Reach out once in a while, because eventually you need people. You need people who are in the corridors of power. And when you start offering value to people, you begin to meet some of these people. Don't be shy to drop your CV. Don't be shy to tell them of your capacities or your capabilities that they do not know of. When Joseph interpreted the dream of the butler of Pharaoh, he told him, when you get out of here, when Pharaoh reinstates you, please remember me. It is a sensible thing to do. Don't be forming over righteous that I don't like asking for favor. No, that's not the way to wealth. That's not the way to prosperity. There are people in the corridors of power, both corporate and political corridors. You need them. They are gatekeepers. You need them to speak for you in places you can never get to. You need them to speak to you in places that matters. These people will speak for you and they will give you an opportunity to rise up. You need these people. You need to learn to network with them with your work. They may even forget about you after you have exchanged cards. For Joseph, the man forgot about Joseph for about 2 years. But you see, the day a situation will come, the day trouble will arise, you will be the first person they will think of, because when you offered value to them, you offered quality value. They will think of you, and just one mention, I tell you, just one favor of God in your life will catapult you to a height you never imagined you can get to. Joseph was in that prison for years. Just one invitation, immediately he had to shave his hair. He has to groom himself to stand before Pharaoh. Just one moment, his life was transformed forever. From a prisoner to a prime minister. You need those network. Don't be over religious. You need network. With people in political position, you need network. With people in the corporate ladder, you need these people to climb up. Joseph used his work to network. Use what he has of value, his skill to network. And one of his network recommended him for a promotion greater than where that network was. That is the fourth principle. Here is the fifth principle. Be strategy oriented. The skill of Joseph in the interpretation of dreams enabled Joseph to interpret the dream of Pharaoh. Joseph was able to interpret the two dreams of Pharaoh because he had that skill. It was that skill he used in interpreting the dreams of the baker and the butler. But do you know what gave Joseph his position? It was not just the interpretation of the dream. It was the strategy for progress that Joseph came up with. The skill enabled him to interpret the dream. But because Joseph was solution-oriented, was strategy-focused, he came with a strategy. Pharaoh, this is the situation. There will be 7 years of abundance that will be followed by 7 years of drought, 7 years of famine, of lack that will make us forget the 7 years of abundance. That was the interpretation of the dream. It ends there. If Joseph had ended there, that would have given Joseph a good pay because he has done what the job description entails, what they invited him for. He has done it. With that, Joseph would have gone home with some good money. And I know Pharaoh might have even pardoned Joseph just by interpreting the dream that no other person could interpret in Egypt. But Joseph did not stop there. He went further and came up with a strategy. Here was Joseph's strategy. Pharaoh, this is what we do. In our years of plenty, let's come up with a tax that everything that is produced in the land of Egypt, we are going to require 1/5, which is 20%. And we'll store this 20% of our production for 7 years. We'll store it at different places in Egypt. There will be record keeping and competent hands to manage this produce we are storing, so that in the years of lack, we'll have supplies. But you must give this to competent hands. Joseph came up with a fantastic strategy, and this strategy was what elevated Joseph from a dream interpreter to a prime minister to the coordinating minister of the economy. It was this strategy. Go beyond just understanding the problem. Provide solutions. In the place of your work, at your workplace, don't be that person who only knows how to smell rotten eggs, but you don't know how to lay good ones. You see problem with every solution, but you don't create solution for any problem. You will only be used as a problem detector, but that will not lead to your elevation. If you want elevation, come up with strategies. Look at situation, look at processes, look at their defects, and prefer solutions. Come with strategies for growth. You'll be given an opportunity to marshal the plan. That is how you get promotion. If you want to make wealth, if you want to grow, if you want to succeed in your career, you must come with strategy. You see, excellence hardly comes by chance. It comes from proper strategy, planning. And Joseph did not just come with interpretation of dreams. He came with a plan that opened the door for him. I hope you are learning. I hope you are preparing your mind to apply these principles in your life, because this is the hack you need to get ahead in life. The solution you are looking for is what you are hearing. Your ninth of many prayers. This is the answer. God requires you to be strategy oriented. Go to that next interview with your strategists. Go with an understanding of the problem and a plan to solve it. That will change everything for you. Here's the sixth principle. Be an implementation specialist. Joseph had a skill. Joseph came up with a strategy. When he was given the responsibility to implement the strategy, he did not drop the ball. He went hard on it, focused that Egypt became the epicenter of food supply in a time of global scarcity. The famed American management consultant Peter Drucker used to say that culture eats strategy for breakfast. It means that your culture, your way of doing things, the way of doing things in a company, in a group, ultimately will either make or mar your strategy. Will make your strategy of no effect if that culture is not that which encourages productivity. Joseph, coming from a place of diligent service, a place where there is emphasis on competence, when he got the opportunity to marshal out the plan, he was able to implement it so well. Because he had that culture of excellence, that culture of folding his sleeves and getting right to work. And it did not fail. So beyond your beautiful plans for the future, beyond your strategy, are you ready to implement? Are you ready to roll up your sleeves? Are you ready to get to work? You can draft a plan for your life. You can have a fantastic strategy to success, to making money. You have excellent business plan. You have worked at everything. You have done your feasibility study. If you are not ready to go to work, it will not lead you anywhere. Joseph was not just strategy oriented, he was also an implementation specialist. Folks, there's a course you said you want to take to hone your skills. There's a course you are taking you left 6 months ago. There are some jobs you said you want to apply for. There's a fine business plan you have been writing for 7 years. There's a business plan you have written that you have not shown anybody, but it's under your pillow. Your years of foolishness are over. It is time to rebuke that laziness, that culture of procrastination, so that that culture will not eat up your strategy for greatness. It is time to rise up and implement like Joseph. Because unless you implement, you are going nowhere. Unless you put in the work, you are going nowhere. Joseph did not use his closeness to God as an excuse for not doing what he needed to do in terms of hard work, in terms of effort. So don't use yours. When you have to pray, pray. But when you have to work, implement. That is how you achieve greatness. That is how you achieve success. And here is the seventh principle. Leverage every opportunity for growth. When the years of scarcity came, the people who have been living in abundance, wallowing in surplus, they came for food. Pharaoh told them, go and meet Joseph. Joseph saw it as an opportunity and he used it so well for growth, for prosperity for the land. And he was prosperous also. He was able to save his own family eventually because he used that opportunity for growth. When Joseph had an opportunity to stand before Pharaoh, he used that opportunity for growth. If you are not prepared before the opportunity comes, if you don't have the right mindset that it is not the amount of opportunity that comes your way, but how well you use them. If you don't have that mindset, opportunities will keep coming and you'll be blaming your village people. Be prepared in your mind to use your next opportunity for growth. There's a new program coming. There's a training coming, that's an opportunity. There's an interview coming, that's an opportunity. There's a business pitch coming, that's an opportunity. Use this for growth. Joseph used every opportunity for growth. You see, one of the sad things that you see in this generation is that many persons admire results without the process. Many persons want to get to the top without going through the ground. Many persons want to achieve success without putting in the work. But you see, there are principles. There are fundamental principles that if only you apply yourself to these principles, you will get the results. Today we have learned 7 principles from the life of Joseph. What I call the Joseph's principles to success and wealth creation. I have seen people use these principles to attain unimaginable heights. I use these principles in my life and I see results. I share this with you. If you don't use them, you are picking your own pocket. But if you use them, you will see how effective they are. You see, there is no free lunch anywhere. If you really want it, if you really want success, if you want it to really bad, apply these principles. You will have a reason to rejoice. There is a statement that God cannot do for you what He has given you the ability to do for yourself. That is why He gave you brain. That is why He gave you hands. If you fail to use them, you are the one suffering yourself. And I hope you are going to apply yourselves to these principles and testify in the end. It's a pleasure having you this Sunday again in From His Heart to Yours. Every Sunday, share with you God's truth from His Word to inspire your life to greatness, to a relationship with Him, and to enable you eat of the good of the land. Before I see you again, can you do something? As an ambassador of God, can you share this video with your friends, with your family members, so that they can benefit from these principles, so that they can apply it to their lives as well and get their lives transformed? By so doing, you have your reward. Before you leave, are there other principles from the life of Joseph you have learned, shared with us in this comment section? Or is there any grass to grace story that you are so fond of in the Bible? You can share it with us in the comment section. It is always a pleasure to have you here every Sunday. Until I see you again, do well to take care of yourself. God bless you.